Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. The candidate of the All Progressives Congress, David Leon, has been declared the winner of the Bayelsa State governorship election by the Independent National Electoral Commission. Leon polled 352,552 votes to defeat his closest rival, Duyo Diri, of the People's Democratic Party, who polled 143,172 votes. The governor-elect won in 6 local government areas, while his PDP rival claimed the remaining 2. Here to discuss the election in Bayelsa State are 2 gentlemen, Comrade Fiyebo Eperetei, the immediate past president of Ijaw Youth Development Association, and Efiye Bribena, secretary, Ijaw Elders Forum. Gentlemen, you are welcome to the morning show.
Thank you very much.
Now, let me throw an open question. What's your assessment of what has happened in your state? I mean, Bayelsa ordinarily is a PDP stronghold. It has been since 1999. And then all of a sudden, the PDP was able to just get, the lead in only Sagbama and Kolokuma, Opokuma local government areas. What happened? And the margin in the other 6 local governments so wide. Let me start with you, Bribena.
Thank you very much. I think it's a reflection of the process of the leadership selection process in the state. It's as a result of the flaw, experienced in the primaries, not just of the PDP, but also of the APC. Where you have a credibility problem in the process of selecting leadership, then you are bound to have issues that will arise that can change the equation of the traditional voting pattern of the people. The Bayelsa State scenario is such that if the PDP had been more forthcoming as a party in the primaries, probably the results would have been different today.
What do you think? Is it a factor of failed governance on the part of the People's Democratic Party that has held the state for almost 20 years, or lack of internal party democracy, or a combination of both? What do you think happened?
I think I see this thing as a good development. It's a great thing. And I want to assure you that if a child is taking first in the class, and feel that he will always take first, and feel arrogant or feel relaxed, believing that he will always get it, the next person will target him and overtake him. I think that is what happened in Bayelsa State.
Let's break it down. I mean, he has made the point about the leadership selection process. And indeed, there are problems with the APC. In fact, more of the problems in the APC, and also problems also in the PDP. But the APC survived it, right? So do you think, when you talk about arrogance, whose arrogance? Is it the party or the leadership, the governor? Because before you came on the program, I had said, look, some Bayelsans have been saying, oh, this is to show Dixon that he cannot dictate the direction of the state. Both of you, I would like you to respond to that.
I actually use the word arrogance not to describe anybody, but when the system felt that we can do undo, it will, hands off in that position. Take, for instance, Bayelsans know who can rule them and who they want. But a person cannot single-handedly make a decision on behalf of others. Now, take, for instance, there are a lot of statements going on during that period that the other side is not well-educated, the other side is well-educated. But the Bayelsans are saying, no, we are not looking into that. We are looking at the people person that the people want. Today, Bayelsans have spoken. I want to advise the youth. What is happening in Bayelsa is a revolution, political revolution. And I believe PDP will also take lesson. Because there are certain things that they did that they do not maybe consult some stakeholders in order to gain the election. Now, it has happened. It's a very big lesson, not only PDP, not only Bayelsa, sorry, for the entire Nigerian politicians. You don't play with the hands or the fingers that fed you. Now, what is happening is a very big lesson to everybody in Nigeria. So, Bayelsa is a very good example. And I can say PDP have done their mistake. I think at the next election, they will amend it.
Well,
reacting to that,
yes.
Like I said, we have a problem of a flawed leadership selection process. And what has happened is that the APC survived the process. It's nothing personal. It's not as a result of mismanagement as much as a problem of perception management, where people see the issue of imposition, because the question is the issue of imposition of candidates, both in the PDP and in the APC. Now, in the PDP, you have a situation where people take it more personal, and as a result, there was a lot of disenchantment, and you see people moving towards the APC. So I don't think that it's as much as bad governance that is the issue, but more as a result of the resentment that came up from the issues of the primaries.
Well, he said, what is happening in Bayelsa State is a good thing. I guess it wasn't a shock for him, the outcome. Let me ask you, was it a shock, this outcome for you? Because from, several litigations arising from the primaries to not so smooth an election as it has been described by many observers, some would say, and like we have discussed during the news segment, perhaps the jury is still out on Bayelsa. Do you see a somewhat situation like a Zamfara repeating itself in Bayelsa State?
Well, yes. I tell you, after the 2019 general elections, after the February elections, where the major issue was there was a tendency to capture power at all costs, and there was a lot of bloodshed in the Niger-Delta. Bayelsa was a serious matter as much as River State. We started to intervene in the process, and our the main issue was to address the issue of violence, credible elections, and then good governance. Because we believe that if you have a peaceful election and you have a credible process, then you'll be able to have good leadership. And so we organized several seminars, and also, of course, led by our peace ambassador, former President Goodluck Jonathan, who led the discussions, attended one of the workshops. And the point was made that violence should not be part of the process. Now, to a large extent, we succeeded on the issue of violence because violence was reduced. At the primaries, there was no reported case of violence, which was a great achievement. But then the issue of credibility of the process, we could not talk on that because the process, especially the two major parties, the process was not credible. That threw up the candidates. And so you have a situation where you now have a situation where it is not the people at the end of the day that will now decide. That is this. I don't see this. I don't think this is the end of the story for these elections, because you have 4 cases in court questioning the credibility of the primaries, and very likely, if substantial justice is done on those matters, they will likely determine who will occupy Creek Haven in February 2020. And it might very likely not even be any of the 2 candidates that are the front runners.
So, Comrade Eperetei, do you agree with him that nobody should jubilate yet? Because you are already in a triumphant mood, saying that this is a good development. But he has just poured water on that, your enthusiasm.
When I mean by good development, I think there should be changes sometime so that other side will wake up. And when there is no changes and the system remains the same, it will end up a form of a challenge way of maybe development of the area, most especially the youths. Because when things are not, a lot of people lamented that there's no employment, no empowerment, the youths are lamenting, people are going into certain things that are not lawful, and people are lamenting, okay, how do we resolve this issue? I am not a member of PDP or APC. I don't know David Lyon, or rather, Senator Donye Diri. No, I don't know any of them. But what we need...
Well, gentlemen, let's take a short break. On that note of what we need, we'll come back to you and the conversation will continue. We'll take a short break now. You're still watching The Morning Show here on the Arise News channel. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the Morning Show here on the Rise News. We still have with us Comrade Fiyebo Eperetei, the immediate past president of Ijaw Youth Development Association, and Efiye Bribena, secretary, Ijaw Elders Forum. Thank you, gentlemen, for staying with us on the show. Before that break, we're discussing the, if you'd like to call it, the legitimacy claims of victory in such an election, starting from the primary internal democracies of the political parties we have at this time. There's a submission by some people who feel that political actors will go the long haul to win elections at all costs in Nigeria, in the Nigeria of today, and ask the losers, because there's always only one winner, ask the losers to go to court where they know it's almost impossible to upturn these elections. Do you agree with that submission? And is that the level of desperation we are and travesty of our democracy 20 years after? Well, both of you, anyone can start.
Very true, very true. That assertion is very correct. The issue is that the elections, that is, people are desperate for power. And there was a post that somebody sent to me, that makes real sense, on what is happening currently. And that is the fact that the person posted and said, look, that PDP for 16 years was still in electoral victory. And then people kept warning them that, look, one day, you will have bigger rogues that will make you look like amateurs. So you see a system, and that same person mentioned the fact that it is a systemic problem. And until you address that systemic problem and the people come out, to do the right thing, that is, insist that the right thing be done, that we cannot have good elections in Nigeria. And I think that reflects the picture in Bayelsa today.
So in other words, you are saying what we have had in Bayelsa is a case of one set of rogues outsmarting another set of rogues.
Frankly speaking, I think that paints a very good picture of what has happened. Because if you look at the results, yes, INEC did relatively well in the sense that they cancelled elections in places where there was overvoting. They also cancelled places where there were skirmishes and things like that. But if you look at it closely, the election can hardly go for something that is credible. The reason being that you have 4 local governments where the figures appear to be bogus. Nembe, Southern Ijaw, Sagbama, and Ogbia.
Where the people jubilated.
Yes. If you look at it, not that, I don't think that if the election was done properly, the result would have been any different. Very likely, APC would have won because of the sentiments, you know. But the figures that are given, definitely, it's just like the figures that we had in 2015 coming from Borno State. Nembe, for instance, is
a war zone.
It's a war zone where most people will keep away. And then you have a turnout of over, as it is, I'm sure, about 80% also. That is not real.
But something may probably explain that. The deputy governor, governorship candidate of the APC, who has been embattled, is from Nembe.
Yes.
Yeah. So maybe his people came out to support him.
Just like it's just like the figures that you have from Sagbama that you want to justify that the governor.
That's where Dixon comes from.
That's where Dixon comes from. That is where the deputy governorship candidate of PDP comes from. And so you want to justify those figures. The truth is that if you look at the fact that Yenegua, which is the safest place in Bayelsa, that has the highest voting registered voters of 199,000, had a turnout of, I think, more like 20-30%. The entire votes cast that was cast in Yenegua was 44,000.
But is it not easier to vote in the creeks?
I am not justifying rigging of elections. I will never justify that. And I will never support that. But the truth of the matter is that I personally, I studied the elections in Nigeria from 1999 to 2015, when the opposition party took over. Now, if you look at it holistically, you will discover that during the reign of PDP, from 1999 to 2015, and let me say from 1999 to 2007, when Umaru Musa Yar'Adua came in as the president of this country, you will discover that the election was announced as the head of the country wants. Now, if you look at it, someone else now succeeded coming in. I'm not justifying rigging of election, but someone else coming in and become a president of this country, an opposition political party. What do you think will happen? They will also go desperate of make sure they get what they want.
But let me ask you, you were the immediate past president of the Ijaw Youth Development Association.
Yes.
Was it that, you know, your association or maybe the Ijaw Youth Council, what do you say to Ijaw youths? Because you see, if you look at the violence that is being reported, the ballot snatching, it looks like, this is perpetrated majorly by young persons. And then I will still come to you, Bribena, about the role of Ijaw Elders. Because it looks like both the youths and the elders are part of the problem, even beyond the politicians.
I think before then, I always advise our youths. Because in Nigeria election now, present election of Nigeria is managed by Nigerian youths, but occupied by the elders and the leaders in a society. The youths determine who will win by carrying guns, by eating or beating or killing fellow youths. At the end of the day, the elders or the political leaders will occupy. From there, they will dump them. They will become helpless, they become jobless. So in that case, we advise our youth not to go into violence. Election is not by violence.
Yeah, but they don't seem to be listening.
That is sometimes advice can be taken and advice might not be taken. But the truth of the matter is that your future is more important than who you are dying for. But look at these our political leaders. Almost all of them, their children are not involved. Their wives are not here. Sometimes their brothers are not even involved in campaigning. But when these youths desperately go into one political leader in the name of I am supporting social person, you have to use your orientation. So what we need, is a society must develop every day. It's not once you develop society must develop gradually. So we will keep on telling our youth not to go into violence, like what happened recently before the election at either Thursday or Friday at Nembe. Imagine shooting youths, killing fellow youths. At the end of the day, you get nothing. So we advise our youth, desist from violence. And that doesn't mean that all Ijaw youths are into violence. You will agree with me that it is few people who want their leaders to occupy what they want that are committing all these crimes. But I believe it's a matter of time. It's a matter of time. We are going to preach to our youth
you want to
every
speak
day.
up for the Ijaw elders?
Yes.
Who seem to have dropped the ball, who seem to be indifferent.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. We, like I said earlier, we stepped up after the February elections, general elections, and we made several efforts to contain the situation. We had workshops, and in those workshops, the general consensus was that the politicians were the ones that were responsible for the violence in our communities, because the youths don't act on their own. It is the politicians, whether they are elders, whether they are youths, or that incite these youths. Because they are the ones that incentivize them. Without them, the youths, and so we targeted the politicians. And thank God for the international community, especially some nations of the West, that spent time putting pressure on the political stakeholders not to be involved in violence. And you can see the results. Frankly speaking, it is a great achievement that the primaries held. There was no violence. And despite the violence in Nembe,
during campaign rallies, during the elections, there was no violence. Well, let me not say there was no violence, but there was no loss of lives, which for us is a major achievement. There were skirmishes here and there. So the youths, yes, there are ready tools to be used, but if you leave them on their own, what do they have to benefit? It is the politicians that have to benefit from youth violence.
Well, thank you. On that note, we'll have to thank the two of you for coming and for sharing your insights with us. Comrade Eperetei, thank you. Elder Bribena. I hope I can say that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well,